and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, on Christmas Eve, and maybe even by the time you're watching this, it is Christmas Day itself. Watching TalkFCB on Christmas, well, I really appreciate that here, that you've decided to spend some of your valuable time with me. And coming up today, we have a lot on the way, because I thought this Christmas, why not produce the longest video ever on the channel? Why don't we do that? And also, guys, right now, I've got a few things going on in my personal life, unfortunately, so right now the podcast episodes, they're really helping me out, and they're really helping me move forward and continuing with the videos here. So we do have today lots to talk about. The transfer plans of Barca in 2025. What are we going to do in terms of incomings, in terms of outgoings as well? We've got big discussion on defence, midfield, attack, and also with particular emphasis on the centre-forward position at Barca. Big discussion on that. We've got the very latest transfer rumours. We've got contract talks coming up. And also, plenty of discussion too, in typical Barca style, about registrations. Even Christmas cannot change that, guys. So thank you indeed here for joining me, like I say, to each and every one of you tuning in, and just sit back now. Have a bit of relaxing time. Have a bit of time here just to unwind this Christmas. Maybe grab a drink, grab a snack, do whatever you need to do. But I hope you're going to enjoy. And let's get to it. And today I would like to thank, and a big thank you indeed, to Matthew, to Kelsey, and to Omkar there with the absolutely fantastic super thanks coming in. That is a big help to me, and I really do appreciate that as well, guys. But why don't we actually kick off today by talking about Marc Bernal? Because it's interesting with him, of course, isn't it? He's technically not going to be a new signing in 2025, but boy, he is going to feel like one, I absolutely assure you, because do not forget how incredible this young man looked before that really unfortunate knee injury, right the way back in August, of course. It was only 3 games into the new season. It was against Rayo Vallecano that he picked up that injury, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. But we cannot forget here how good he was, how good he looked, how talented he is. Just 17 years old as well. So much time for him here. And he will come back from that injury. Barca actually posted an update there that he's doing well, mentally, physically right now. It's tough to come back from that. He had a really serious one, of course, with the ACL. And not only that, but also the meniscus was affected. So that's a really bad one. But he is doing well. He's doing good, and the recovery is going really well. And I think it's interesting to think right now, especially given what we've lacked in recent weeks, about where exactly Marc Bernal would fit into this midfield. Because like I say, he was brilliant at the start of the season. Remember, we played away at Valencia. He was fantastic in that game. He started it. We were all thinking, who is this kid? We've seen him in pre-season. He played well there. But to be starting in La Liga, it was a massive call from Flick. And he did not disappoint. He really did handle the pressure so well. He then played again from the start against Athletic Club. He was brilliant against Rayo away before he picked up that injury. And I'm so excited to see him when he is back available again. Because, of course, we've seen in Barca's first team right now, Marc Casado absolutely explode this season. Started the season incredibly well too. Let's not forget that. But I think it's interesting with Casado and Bernal. They are very different kinds of players, though, aren't they? And I feel as though Marc Bernal, he's the kind of player that we are actually lacking. Because with Marc Casado, he is so good, isn't he, in terms of that intensity. You want him to be able to be physically at his peak. That also means resting him sometimes, having the luxury of actually giving him some time away so that he can really bring that full high intense play that he can. But he's very suited, isn't he, to an open game. When things are box to box, there have been many games like that this season. He's so good at retrieving the ball there, turning it over, and then working it really impressive in those areas. But I look at games recently from Barca, I'm thinking about when teams are defending that bit deeper, when there's not that much space, when it's not really too much of an open game, when Barca are on top and really dominating. Even the game of the weekend against Atletico Madrid, in that second half, for example, they were so deep. We had all of the ball. We were really dominant. I think in that kind of game there, you're looking for somebody more like Marc Bernal there, with those characteristics, to also be able to defend. He's good defensively, he's got a good head on his shoulders, but he can really work the ball. He can control things there a little bit better from deeper in midfield, and maybe make some more penetrating passes, especially against some of those deeper blocks when we have a lot more of the ball. So I think it's really great here that we will eventually have the options of Casado, of Bernal. Those two players there, they can give us so much in that midfield, so much quality between them, and of course they are both young talents. And Bernal right now, he's been out injured for about 4 months. That's 4 months of his recovery absolutely done and ticked off. Now this one though, it was always going to be a lengthy injury. You're looking there at probably 12 months out. That is a really long one, much like Gavi in many ways. So maybe September you're looking at in terms of that recovery. Of course, it is a real shame that we won't get to see him for any more of this season, but like I say, come the summer there and come looking there at next season, he is going to be key. I am absolutely sure of that there. He is a top player. He's got fantastic characteristics that we can use and that we really lack in this team right now, and he can complement the great options that we already have in that area. So all the best right now to Marc Bernal. Keep that recovery going, and we cannot wait to see you back soon, guys. But here, looking at the January transfer window then, looking at the here and now, what can we expect from Barca? Because they are going to try and make maybe a few moves, and certainly looking first of all at outgoings, because we definitely need to do something in terms of departures there, in terms of freeing up wages and maybe even bringing in a little bit of transfer money, because Eric Garcia is one that has been heavily linked with an exit from the club. Now, right now there's a few clubs interested in him. We're hearing a few links to Newcastle in the Premier League. We know they have money. And we also hear in the media that Barca are looking to sell him for maybe 20 or 25 million euros, of course. He had a very good season at Girona last season. It was a bit surprising to me when we didn't actually sell him on basically off the back of that season there, sort of cash in when those Eric Garcia stonks were at their highest. But hey, we didn't do that. But I just think it's interesting with Barca. Whenever I hear, oh, we want 20 million, we want 25 million for somebody, we're looking to raise money, in my head I just think, and I don't know if you guys are the same, we're never getting that money. You know, we are never, ever going to sell a player, in my opinion, for a good amount. We are not good at selling players and raising money. I just don't ever really see it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Eric Garcia, what kind of money is actually going to be on the table. And then, of course, there's Ansu Fati, who's another one who's really heavily linked here with an exit in January. Of course, he's only recently come back from that injury problem. Hasn't really been able to work his way. Even when he was fit, don't forget, he wasn't able to really work his way into this Flick team. We heard all the way through the summer, you know, Flick likes what he's seeing from him. He's encouraged by Ansu Fati. There have been more injury problems. That's obviously not helpful, but I just never really saw Ansu getting opportunities and really being able to play in this team. So I think their January exit is very possible. It is very likely in many ways. Sevilla are one of the teams who've been looking at him now for sort of 6 to 12 months. They've been really interested in him. So Ansu could well be leaving the club. But hey, what about Pablo Torre? Now, this is a really interesting one. And again, one I've already said I don't get it in any way, shape or form. Because in Barca's last 5 games, when remember, the form has not been good, the performances have not been good, the energy levels have not been good, and particularly there in the central attacking area of the field, things, you guessed it, have not been good. Pablo Torre, though, in those 5 games, 0 minutes. I mean, literally nothing. You know, he's not even come on for a single minute there. He's been on the bench. He's been an unused sub, completely overlooked. And why? I just don't get it. Because obviously, like I say, in that central area, Dani Olmo, yes, started the season absolutely brilliantly, but he's been plagued by injuries. He's been really struggling at times there with fitness and also with a bit of form as well. It's tailed off. It's not been at the kind of peak level that we were seeing originally. And then Fermin comes in to replace him, and he also hasn't really been able to match the kind of form that he was showing last season there. So you've got players who are struggling to reach their previous highs. And then Pablo Torre, whenever he has played, he's had an impact. You know, he has contributed in the final third, and I just can't believe it, and I don't get it here, why he's not played a single minute in the last 5 games. Because can I just raise a wider issue? Speaking about Torre here, speaking about somebody who has actually scored from range, who is actually somebody who can take on a shot there and threaten as well from set pieces, what on earth has happened to Barca shooting? You know, what has happened to Barca shooting from outside of the box? Where's it gone? You know, where has it honestly gone, guys? Because remember, at the start of the season, when Hansi Flick came in, and we really saw a revolutionised Barca, we saw us shoot on sight. That was the policy there. It was get the ball in and around the penalty area. If you see an opening, you go for it. You really do put as much pressure as you possibly can on the opponent and on the opponent goalkeeper. And where has that gone? Because over the past games, again, we're shot shy. We are waiting and waiting and waiting. Pass, waiting. The shot doesn't come. We are not producing those attempts on goal from range anymore. We're not threatening in that department. And there's no excuse for it, by the way, because in the previous games, they're like I say, against Atleti, against Leganés, against Las Palmas, these are all teams as well who defended in deep blocks. They shut down the space. There wasn't room to operate in. They were actually happy for us to have the ball there, right in front of their goal, on the edge of the box. They're happy for us to work it from side to side there. And maybe it's because we haven't been shooting. Teams are happy now to give us that option, to give us that freedom, because they know they're not really going to be challenged. So I just think here, we've got to bring back those shots from distance. They keep the opposition honest. It keeps them on their toes there. It keeps them under pressure. And I just don't understand why that, again, is something that's disappeared from our game. We seem to make these improvements. We seem to make real steps in the right direction. But then at times at Barca, it's like bang your head against the wall, because they almost think, oh, that was working pretty well. You know what? I'm never going to do it again. Come on, guys. Bring the shots back. Let's do some shots. Not now. But it is also interesting, guys, that we have heard a few rumours as well. And this is an interesting one that I wanted to talk with you about here. Joao Cancelo. That's been a rumour in the media over the past few days there. It's actually started from sports, so, make of that what you will. But anyway, Joao Cancelo, of course, signed for Al Hilal in the summer following his loan at Barca last season. And the rumour is that he's absolutely desperate to actually return to Barca and to make that happen in the January transfer window. Sports say there that he will do absolutely anything to make it possible, to make it happen, even if it means signing on very, very low wages. Now look, I can believe that Cancelo would love to come back, and I can also believe that he would be very, very helpful in terms of FFP. He would do what was required to make the move happen, but I guess it's got a few people talking, reminiscing maybe about Cancelo's best days at Barca. Would you take him back? Could he be an addition to the squad in January? And we're not really going to be able to do too much at all. Now look, for me, as a fullback, especially in Hansi Flick's high line, oh, please no, that is absolutely not something that could work out. We saw last season, even when defending quite deep at times, Joao Cancelo, he is very, very vulnerable defensively. He is not a player there that you can depend on from a defensive point of view. But can I just actually say here, guys, though, offensively, maybe as more of a wing-back, maybe even as a winger, I don't know, he's actually a lot better offensively than a lot of our backup options right now. Let me just say that. We lack wingers at Barca. We lack offensive output in wide areas. Now, he is actually somebody who could contribute in those areas, but I don't really expect this deal to happen, to be honest. I don't really see it here as something that we're going to go back on. It almost seems as though that book is closed. That chapter there is over with Joao Cancelo and Barca. But please do tell me your thoughts on that rumour. But hey, guys, we do at some point, though, desperately need fullbacks in this team, particularly they're looking at left back. There is absolutely no reason why all of the burden, all of the responsibility should be on the shoulders of Alejandro Balde. I don't really think that helps him either. We know that he's very, very good defensively. We know that he also has work to do in terms of improving offensively, improving that output really in the final third. So we do need somebody to come in and help him to ease that burden, to also share the responsibility in terms of games, and ultimately put a bit of pressure on him too. I don't really want to see Balde thinking, I'm going to play every game anyway. I don't really need to improve. I don't really need to push myself. I think every player in this team should feel under that bit of pressure. They should feel as though they've got to earn their place. And right now, it's kind of being handed to Balde because we really are lacking in the full-back areas. But hey, what about looking a little bit further forward now, guys? What about looking a little bit further into 2025? Because I think it's really interesting to hear in the media that Laporta has apparently conveyed there privately to journalists there behind closed doors, sort of off the record in some way, that he will not allow any player to enter the 2025-26 season with just 1 year left on their contract there. So Laporta apparently is going to be very firm and very strict on that rule. If you've only got 1 year left, you will not be allowed to continue. That will be it. Your time, Barca, will be done if you do not extend. And of course, when you speak there about that kind of stance, you think about Frenkie de Jong, you think about Ronald Araujo, two players there, two big players in this Barcelona team who are coming towards the end of their deals. They expire in 2026, so right now they are 18 months away from walking away effectively for free. Now, Laporta does not want that to happen. Now, it's interesting, though, over the past few games, to see what's happening with these two players right here. You've got Araujo, you've got Frenkie. Now, we know that Frenkie been very much out of favour. You know, he also did not come on for a single minute against Atleti. Eric Garcia, of course, was referred to him. Big statement there from Hansi Flick. And even Araujo, obviously it's not been ideal circumstances. We haven't played well since he's returned. But since he has regained his fitness, he's also yet to play a single minute in this team. And at times with Barca, you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. You're never quite sure if there's politics there, if there are things that are being done above Hansi Flick's station. Is there any influence there? Is there any messages coming down from the board, from those above him, in terms of players like Frenkie, like Araujo, to kind of put maximum pressure on them? We know that Araujo is still negotiating very hard with his agent over that new deal. We know that Frenkie not even at the negotiating table there. So Barca right now, I think they're starting to prepare themselves to be more firm, very much firmer in these contract situations, but it's not easy, because even if you're saying as a president there, going into that final year of their deals, oh, you gotta go, they still have that contract. If they want to let it run down and leave for free, technically, they can do that. It is difficult to shift them. If player has it in his mind, it's not going to be easy. You will have to take pretty drastic measures to convince them, and that is what we're going to see over the months to come, because, hey, even right now, we've got contract issues of our own, happening right now at this moment. Dani Olmo, of course, his registration very much up in the air in 2025. Now, Barca, it's interesting on this, guys, they've taken the legal route. They're actually not going through La Liga anymore, because, every time we sign a player there, we're trying to register them, we send a lot of documents the way of La Liga, we check with them to make sure that everything is okay. This time, we're actually not doing that. We are not putting our faith in La Liga to make the right call. Barca are pretty disappointed with the way that La Liga have handled this situation. To be honest, they thought the Nike deal, the brand new record-breaking deal with Nike, would be enough to register Olmo and Pau Viktor, don't forget. But La Liga have now said no. So Barca indeed have gone down the legal route to get them registered, and they're very confident because the same judge in this case, interestingly enough, allowed Gavi's registration in 2023. So remember that there, when Gavi was actually registered, mid-season it was in that campaign in 2023. We went above La Liga's head on that occasion, and we won. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And also, Barca would like to renew Gavi and Pedri very soon, but again, that will depend there on the salary margin that's available to us. Only if there's enough space can we register those renewals, but they do want to renew both of them on long-term deals to keep them at the club, and you're not expected really with those two to run into any negotiating issues. They both want to be here. They're both massive parts of this club, of course. Gavi and Pedri will be here for many years to come. However, guys, it does get very interesting then when you start to look further into 2025, when you're thinking, okay, come the summer though, we will have money to spend, there will be money available, we've done some very good deals recently, and we are moving in the right direction with our FFP and with our wage bill as well. But the big debate now amongst Barcelona fans is, how should that money be spent? Because for month upon month here we've been talking about wide players, about a left winger. That's also the message from the club. They're really targeting a left winger, but is that still the same feeling amongst the fan base? In amongst the board at the club as well, do they still feel that left wing is the priority, or should we be looking more at a centre forward right now? Given our struggles in front of goal, given the fact here we don't really have a long-term option, that's a massive position. It can make or break your game. Everything could be absolutely perfect. Your defence can be solid. Your midfield can be absolutely cooking. You could be creating chances at will. But if nobody's there to put them in the back of the net, if nobody is there to apply that finishing touch in the number 9 position, you are going to fail. At the end of it, it's all going to break down if you do not have that reliable and consistent goal scorer. Now, first of all, guys, can I talk about Vitor Roque? Because honestly, I think with every passing day here, what you see in the media, what is happening behind the scenes, I think he's getting further and further away from being a Barcelona player. You know, I don't see him as a replacement for Robert Lewandowski. The club do not see it that way right now. And from the beginning, this has just been a mess. You know, from the very beginning here, remember, signing him for 40 million euros in our financial situation, which back then was even worse, and then rushing to bring him in, then not playing him, then when he was supposed to arrive, loaning him out to Betis. And now that's where we are. Now, it seemed to be from Barca, perhaps when we actually signed Roque, it was kind of a direct response to Real Madrid for signing Endrick, for signing many other talented Brazilians. Barca wanted in on that. You know, they wanted to show something. They wanted to reply with the signing of their own. Well, that hasn't done us any favours, not in terms of what we're doing on the field, but also financially too, and the feeling in Brazil, of course. Don't forget, this was a very talented player, very exciting player, very big talent. We've signed him, and it really hasn't gone well for anybody involved. And indeed, it did come up this week, guys, that Palmeiras, Brazilian club Palmeiras, they were actually very interested recently in signing Roque, actually on loan in January. If Betis are willing to sort of cut his loan short, he would then have gone back to Brazil to play with Palmeiras there, and there could have been a 20 million euro buy option apparently in that deal. Now, apparently Betis, they have not agreed to that. They're not going to cut that loan short, and Roque will actually stay at Betis for the remainder of the season. But I think his future is really, really unclear right now. It's interesting to hear that at the weekend, Tottenham scouts were actually in attendance there at Real Betis' match. They were watching Roque and understanding what he can do, you know, should they make a move. And that's an interesting one, actually. I'm thinking about Tottenham here. That's a signing that I could actually see them making. You know, the kind of players they go for, you know, they can be hit, they can be missed. I think Roque in Tottenham, that does sound quite interesting. So let's see if they take that any further there. But like I say, Roque is not being mentioned as a Barca forward. He's not being mentioned here as the next step from Robert Lewandowski. So I think right now we have to divert our attention to elsewhere, and we have to try and understand what is going to happen in that number 9 position at Barca. Because, okay, guys, what exactly is the situation with Robert Lewandowski? And right now I'm not even talking necessarily because of the current form. You know, we've spoken already about the fact that Lewandowski, he is not feeling good in front of goal right now. He is not his usual self. He is not the same player that honestly started the season. In terms of being clinical there in front of goal, he hasn't been there in recent weeks, but not even because of that. But look, just looking at the facts here, he's 36 years old. You know, at some point, you've got to plan for the future. At some point here, you're going to have to move on from Robert Lewandowski. Now, in my personal opinion, I honestly believe the club would sell him tomorrow if they could. I honestly believe here that even back in the summer, if he had accepted one of those lucrative offers, which fair play to him, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to stay at Barca. But if he did accept one of those big offers from Saudi Arabia, Barca would have said, thank you very much. We appreciate your service there. We think you're a legendary player, but we appreciate it, and now be on your way. They would have happily gotten rid of Lewandowski, in my opinion, because he's a massive earner at Barca right now. Now, if Barca want to make a big forward signing, it cannot happen with Lewandowski at the club. He would simply need to go in order to have the money, in order to have the salary mass to be able to afford a big forward signing. Only then can they do it if Lewandowski's wages are no more. Because with him and Frenkie de Jong, they are among the top earners at the club. They're taking up big salary numbers, and both of them really, Barca, would like to kind of shift. But here's the thing, because it's exactly the same situation really as Frenkie de Jong. Because the problem with Lewandowski too is that, one, he's got a contract until 2026. That is a long-term deal there. He will be 38 years old pretty much by the time that contract is completely done. We signed him on a really massive long-term deal, of course, when we signed him from Bayern back in 2022. But the other similarity to Frenkie right now is whenever you hear Lewandowski speak about Barca, he wants to be here, he wants to succeed here, but you also hear him say, much like Frenkie, he and his family, he and his wife, they absolutely love it in the city of Barcelona. They're happy to have made this move. They're really happy in the city, and they've got no intention of leaving that behind. They want to remain here, and it's really good for them. So it's exactly the same here with Frenkie. It's not easy when you've given these players contracts there, when they've got those big deals in front of them, shifting them and being nicely at home in the city of Barcelona. It's lovely. It really is, and it's hard to get them out. But in the instance here that Barca are able to let Lewandowski go, whether that be this summer, whether that be in 2026, of course, the big option, it's Erling Haaland. Now, a lot of people sort of laugh when his name is mentioned with relation to Barca, of course, given our well-documented financial issues. A lot of people think, well, that is never, ever going to happen. But hey, if you get certain big earners off the wage bill, and given the sponsorship deals that we're signing and returning to our big stadium, it could really all click together nicely. And also with Erling Haaland, guys, remember, I don't actually think he's as untouchable as he previously has been. You know, also given his form, and especially given Man City's current form and everything they're going through to away from the field. Don't forget about all those charges that are stacked up against them, and they're actually going to get a verdict on that there at the beginning of 2025, maybe around March by the time Man City hear whether or not they're even going to stay in the Premier League. You know, it's not actually ruled out that they could be kicked out of the league for over 100 charges against them. So Man City right now, they're in a bit of a pickle, and Barca are looking at that thinking, oh, okay, we're going to see how that develops. We're going to see where we are, maybe in 2025, maybe in 2026. Erling Haaland, he's a dream. He's an absolute dream of Joan Laporta's, but is it only a dream, though? Because there's another option, Viktor Gyokeres. Now, I know a lot of people would love to see this guy at Barca, and I think right now, looking at him, it's all about the finishing, which I think for us Barcelona fans, we would kind of love that, wouldn't we? We would absolutely love to be able to sort of rely on such a clinical player in front of goal, such an ice-cool finisher. But at the end of the day, guys, you know, my concern right now is looking at Lewandowski, for example. He is one of the best goal scorers of the past decade, if not the best, in terms there of an out-and-out number 9, pure number 9 striker. He is just about as good as it gets. Now, if he at Barca, I think he's actually feeling the pressure, and I think he has at times since he arrived. He even admitted recently he hasn't been calm in front of goal. He hasn't been able to have that composure. Now, if that's happening to him, what's to say it wouldn't happen with somebody like Gyokeres? Because look, if you took his sporting form and you took the way that he finishes chance in front of goal, and you actually brought all of that to Barca, exactly the same. Now, I would sign him tomorrow because he would be absolutely lethal. But the big question is about the mentality. The big question is whether he could be that clinical, that ruthless, that fearless under pressure in a Barca shirt with the weight that it has. That's the decision that you've got to make, and that is the big decision that Barca have got to go through when trying to find Lewandowski's successor, because it's also not ruled out, guys, that maybe there could be a kind of stopgap option, that maybe there could be a player that comes in the middle of all this, like Jonathan David. He, of course, is a free agent come the end of the season. He's been very, very impressive there playing his football in France, and he could be an option there, basically. Barca see it. Come in now, help us now, also maybe even support Lewandowski if he's to remain at the club, and then wait and see what happens. You know, it's possible that he could really catch fire, that he could go to another level, and then he could be our next big thing. He could be the next big centre-forward at Barca. But if not, then we'll just sell him. You know, it's easy money, because obviously he's coming in on a relatively free deal. Obviously, there's different add-ons and signing bonuses attached to that. And then if it doesn't work out anyway, well, it still becomes a bit of a low-risk kind of deal. You know, you can sell him on in the future. You can then move him on, free up those wages if required, if you've got something bigger planned for 2026, and if maybe he doesn't explode as you hope that he would. So Barca here right now, I do believe they're looking for alternatives to Lewandowski. I think in the near term, I think in the long term, we of course need a long-term option. The number 9 position at Barca, it is massive. You know, you cannot understate how important that role is, and we have to address it. You know, if there's money to spend, if there's money here that we have available to us, you've got to be looking at a forward, in my opinion, guys. But where would you go? You know, who would you be looking at? Where would you spend that money? And realistically, what would you do either in 2025? Would you do something there? Would you make something happen there? Or is it okay to leave it until 2026? Can we continue with Lewandowski until 2026? Can we last until then, those are the big questions that we need to be asking ourselves right now. And over this Christmas period, we can all have a good think about what is happening and what should happen with this Barcelona team, guys. So I really do hope here today that you have enjoyed a really long Christmas episode. I thank you indeed for all of you for tuning in. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate that. Absolutely incredible support. And I wish you a fantastic Christmas. And let's hope here that the very best gift that we could all get is Barca having a fantastic 2025 and that Hansi Flick can be our very own version of Santa Claus. Let's end on that note. Let's end it right there with that. Thank you indeed, guys, for all of that great support. I will see all of you soon. But until next time, as always, Visca El Barça.